Do you guys remember when we did the biggest Call of Duty ranking video series ever? We ranked every single assault rifle, and I said, this is insane. There's 127 assault rifles. We'll never top this. Yeah, well, welcome everybody. Maps can make or break a Call of Duty game. You have great mechanics, fantastic shooting, but if you don't have a good map, guess what? You're not going to have a very good game. Welcome to our latest ridiculous ranking list, and yes, we are going to be ranking every single launch map in COD history, from the worst to the best, all 173 of them. Keep in mind, we're only going to be looking at 6v6 maps, no gunfight or 10v10. Let me know what you think of the best and worst maps in COD. Drop a like, make sure you're following the page. Thank you for all the love on the mega ranking series. Dead last, number 173, Grozna Raid from Modern Warfare 2019. The game is almost 2 years old, and I have no clue how this map was ever in the 6v6 rotation. Grozna, one of the biggest maps in the game for core multiplayer. For some reason, IW kept it in both the 6v6 playlist and the 10v10. It was way too big for standard 6v6, and the spawns were some of the worst in COD history. You were lucky if you even got a full 6v6 lobby on this map, because people would just back out as soon as they saw it. Definitely deserving of dead last. At number 172, it was neck and neck for last place. Piccadilly from 2019's Modern Warfare. It was gorgeous. I mean, it really was. Infinity Ward really went above and beyond with the details of it, but it played like complete and utter crap. There's just way too much going on, and the art style being so realistic, it was hard to see people when they were camping in the windows. Piccadilly has become a meme in the COD community because of how hated it is, and even Infinity Ward devs have come out and said they agree with the criticism. That's pretty crazy, right? At number 171, Flooded from COD Ghosts. This may be a hot take, but I think Flooded was the worst map in the game. Between the giant size, the bizarre layout, the abundance of out-of-map glitches, it was way too chaotic and way too unpredictable. There's just no way to get your crap together on this map by the time you finally find someone and they've killed you from a corner. You have to spend another hour and a half trying to find your next enemy. It may be controversial, but I honestly think this was worse than Stonehaven. But don't worry, it's coming soon. At number 170, Euphrates Bridge from Modern Warfare 2019. This is one of my least favorite maps in COD history. Absolutely should not have been in the 6v6 rotation. Way too big, and despite it being so big, the spawns would constantly get hard locked in the same two corners, which, of course, made spawn trapping ridiculously easy. Matches on Euphrates Bridge were almost always a blowout, and I don't think anybody is going to disagree with me putting it this low on the list. At number 169, Gustav Cannon, COD World War II. You knew it was going to be low, you just didn't know how low. It's one of the most hated memeable maps in COD history. It even got to the point that Sledgehammer was making fun of it. I mean, come on. Huge map, giant patch of high ground in the dead center, allowed you to grab it, snipe the enemy team as they spawned in, completely dominating the entire match. And if there had been some more cover, maybe an additional lane underneath the cannon, maybe it would have been decent. But as it stands right now, it's 169. At number 168 today, Downturn from Modern Warfare 3. Did anybody actually like this map? Raise your hand. I'm convinced 0 people did. It took place on Wall Street after World War III broke out, and the flow was awful. For a 6v6 map, there was way too many levels, way too many buildings, and the levels had levels within the levels, and the buildings had rooms within the rooms, and the flow, it was bad. Nothing happened on the map. I don't think anyone actually ever voted for it when it came up in rotation. At number 167 today, my gosh, what are we doing here? The USS Texas from COD World War II. Super cool concept, and there were certainly some nice views, but once you started playing, it lost its appeal. The spawns were just way too strict, and the spawn trapping here was some of the easiest in COD history. All you had to do was get to the second story, look out at the enemy team, pick them off as they spawned in. Now, if the spawns had been improved, USS Texas could have been a pretty awesome map. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty low spot. You'll see a common theme there with spawns that ruin maps. At number 166, Stonehaven from Ghosts. Here it is. One of the most infamous FPS maps of all time. It's one of the biggest 6v6 maps in COD history, and I do not understand why it was in the rotation ever. It's too big. Single playtest would have made that clear. Could it have been worse? Yeah, I guess so. And as you've seen, I don't think it's the worst map in Ghosts, but it's a close second. That's not something to be proud of. Search and Destroy actually played pretty cool on here, but everything else was garbage. At number 165, Aftermath from Black Ops 2. Now, it's weird to have a map this bad in a game as good as Black Ops 2. Aftermath felt like a campaign level that was supposed to be filled with NPCs as opposed to a multiplayer map with only 12 people in it. The spawns, they were weird. The layout, it was weird. The corners, they were dark. And nothing happened on this map. If you like the map, guess what? You are wrong. At number 164, Drone from Black Ops 2. Now, every game is allowed a stinker or two, and in Black Ops 2, here it is. Aftermath, Drone. Drone, Aftermath. They're the resident stinkers. Drone, super complicated. The flow barely existed. Yes, there was more flow than Aftermath, but that's not saying a whole lot. Too many routes, way too many head glitches, and not nearly enough ways around things. It sucked. You know it sucked, and it was a blemish on Black Ops 2 as a whole, so let's move past it. At number 163, Metro from Black Ops 3. Now, BO3 had average maps all around, but Metro was probably the worst. It wasn't offensively bad, but it was also just bizarre when it came to game flow. It was big, spawns were really far back in the corners, and then you had the train that came through every once in a while to bring the fighting to a standstill. It was weird. If I had to pick it, I'd say it was my least favorite in the game. At number 162, Exodus from Black Ops 3. This is one of the most hated maps in COD history because of all the technical issues. We never got a chance to enjoy it. Big map, average flow. Why is it ranked so low? Well, I have no clue what went wrong in development, but Exodus has to be one of the buggiest maps ever put in a first-person shooter. Hard crashes, texture bugs, blue screens, color changes, out of map spots, you name it, it was here. Long loading times. It was a mess. Treyarch even pulled it from the rotation twice while they tried to fix it, and they didn't. I mean, when it was working as intended, it was a little below average as a COD map. It wouldn't have been this low, but when you factor in all the technical problems that'll never be fixed, here it is at 162. At number 161. Prison Break from Ghost. Did you ever find the Bigfoot Easter egg? I've talked a lot of crap about this map, and I'm going to do it again. Prison Break was like 2 or 3 maps all tied into one. Gigantic, the flow was everywhere, and there was no reason it should have been in the 6v6 rotation. There's a forest, there's a prison, and those connecting areas, well, I don't know. It could have been 2 maps entirely. Prison Break was painfully slow and super campy, which made it super enjoyable to play on. Although, all that being said, Infection was actually fun here because everybody crowded in the prison structure. So there's that. At number 160, Stormfront from COD Ghost. Boy, oh boy, was this map too big for 6v6. I know I've said that about other Ghost maps, but Stormfront, whew, obviously not designed for 6-person teams. It not only was it huge, but it had a lot of buildings for you to hide in. That just made the square footage of the map even bigger, which further screwed the flow. Now, I will commend the art team because they brought their A game. The map is gorgeous. The designers, they put time into it, but they should have had some more coffee when they play tested it because something went wrong. At number 159 today, Miami from Black Ops Cold War, one of my least favorite Treyarch maps of all time, and that's saying something. Miami was gorgeous. It was eye candy. It was awesome to look at, but playing it was a nightmare. There's just too much going on. Too many rooms, too many head glitches, too many dark spots, too many hotel rooms. It's just the flow wasn't there. It was horrible. It was frustrating. Hard pass. At number 158, Block from COD 4. I was never a fan of this map, and while I know some weirdos out there liked it, I'm not one of those weirdos. Block was way too big. It was filled with dark camping spots. The objectives were almost unfair in how little cover they gave you, and if you weren't sitting on a head glitch with a sniper, you just weren't going to have success. Block was way too big for 6v6. I know I've said that a million times already, and this is literally the first part of this mega series, and the amount of windows and camping spots, it made it worse. At number 157, Overlord from COD Ghost. Big, big, cluttered, fun to play. It was like you took Dome from Modern Warfare 3 and you blew it up 5 times the size without adjusting anything else. I hated it, you hated it. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. At number 156, Derail from Modern Warfare 2. I don't like this map. Modern Warfare 2 didn't have many bad maps, but this was one. In terms of square footage, it's one of the biggest 6v6 maps in COD history, and almost all the fighting took place in the same 3 places, which, that's super frustrating because Modern Warfare 2 did not have unlimited sprint. So, you would be spending a lot of time trying to get back into the fight after you died, and then someone would snipe you from 200 yards in the snow, and you'd start the process all over. I didn't like the map, and I doubt you have many fond memories of it either. At number 155, Chasm from Ghosts. Now, this was certainly interesting to look at, and the art team once again did their best, but the design, it was way too much. Chasm is a good example of what happens when you make an arcade shooter a bit too realistic. It feels like the layout of an actually destroyed city, and I can commend that. But we also have to acknowledge that an arcade shooter like COD, it needs a kind of specific map in order to be fun. Chasm wasn't it. It just was not fun. At number 154 today, Outpost from Modern Warfare 3. I hated this map. I know I wasn't alone. It was a snowy map with horrible visibility, a weird layout, atrocious spawns, and combat that felt completely unbalanced in every regard. Now, maybe I hate this map more than the other people. I don't know. But I don't think there's a single person that actually voted for this map. I love a good snow map. This is not that. At number 153. Let's go to the Redwoods from Black Ops 3. Now, I liked Redwood when it first came out. The aesthetic, the style, it was cool. But as time went on, most of the community will agree with me, it became one of the worst maps in the game. The flow on Redwood was all over the place, and with the layout being what it was, those spawns were not helpful. Again, it looked awesome, and there's a couple of Easter eggs to find, but overall, it wasn't a very high-tier map. Probably not even mid-tier. I mean, we're only at 153, right? And we're going all the way down to number 1. At number 152. Downpour from COD 4. I can't be the only one who thought this map was bad. It's one of the most recognizable from COD 4, but I don't think people enjoyed it. It wasn't very big, and there wasn't many routes. The visibility was horrible. It took place in the middle of a rainstorm. It was frustrating because it felt like you were constantly getting killed by people sitting on the rooftops, and I know some people enjoyed it. I didn't. I don't care if it's classic. It was not good. At number 151, talk about classic. Wasteland from Modern Warfare 2. Now, there is a super love it or hate it with this map, and I don't think it's actually good, but it was fun, okay? If someone got an aerial strike, it was pretty much GG's because there's no cover unless you managed to get the bunker, which was easier said than done. Now, I do have some fond memories on this map, and I'm sure you do too, but I don't think Wasteland was a very good map. When you can launch a noob tube at the very beginning of the match and get a 6-piece, there's something wrong. At number 150, St. Petrograd from Modern Warfare 2019. Another one of those maps in Modern Warfare that looked stunning and the attention to detail was off the charts. Once you actually dropped and played, frustrating. There were way too many camping spots here. With the amount of windows and alleyways to hide in and doors to open, the floor was screwed. Or the flow was screwed, not the floor. If you like sitting in corners with shotguns or snipers, you loved it. But if you like actually playing Call of Duty, you probably backed out of every match on this one. At number 149, you probably forgot this map even existed. Crisis from Black Ops 1. This map had great vibes. It was just too big. Even Treyarch agreed because in party modes, they sliced it in half and literally deleted half of it from the play area. Crisis could have been 2 maps entirely, but for some reason, Treyarch decided to throw it all into one, which was a little annoying. If we're talking about the cut-down version in the Wager Match playlist, it was upper to mid-tier, I would say. But we're talking about the core 6v6 version, it's down here and I think it's fair. At number 148, Ardennes Forest from COD World War II. Visually, once again, map is stunning. Bright sun, white snow, bloodstains on the ground. Awesome. Once you started the match, the map was a mess. I mean, the spawns were some of the worst in COD history, especially in objective modes like Domination, where you could literally just stand on the bridge and watch the enemy team spawn in front of you. Almost every match on this map was a blowout because of those spawns, and since they were never fixed, it was getting a pretty low spot today. If the spawns were better, it would have been mid-tier, but since they're not, it got docked some points. At number 147, Retaliation from Infinite Warfare. Now, a lot of the community jokingly named Retaliation to Stonehaven 2.0 because of how big it was. For 6v6, this map is way too big. It had almost all the same problems as Stonehaven. It was gorgeous to look around and run on, but you spent so much time there from spawn to spawn, it didn't work. They were too far away from the main choke points, and the map was too big. It was a tad better than Stonehaven, but at the end of the day, it's not really saying a lot. At 146, Rundown from Modern Warfare 2. Of all the Modern Warfare 2 maps, I think Rundown is the one I would delete if I had a choice, which may sound weird because I don't think it's the worst. I just think Rundown is the most annoying. Yes, Derail and Wasteland may be worse, but at least those maps had some kind of battle plan or game flow. Rundown, boring. It's better than other COD maps, but I could delete it from Modern Warfare 2. I wouldn't feel bad. I wouldn't cry. I just think it's, I don't know. I think lower of this one than I do Derail or Wasteland. I can't explain it. I just do. At number 145 today, Wet Work in COD 4. Now, this may be the single most obnoxious map in COD history. Not only is the visibility limited on Wet Work, but it's also way too narrow, which led to people just running frag times 3 and spamming them straight ahead after spawning, which I know we're all guilty of. In Modern Warfare Remastered, Raven Software even disabled frag times 3 on Wet Work for certain game modes because they thought it was too unbalanced. Wet Work certainly has some nostalgic value, but in terms of gameplay, no. At number 144 today, Grounded from Infinite Warfare. This was one of my least favorite maps from IW, and I'm willing to bet some of you don't even remember it. It was set on a site of a crashed ship, or maybe it was an abandoned facility. I don't remember. I don't know. Here we go. It was decent. There was a few out-of-map glitch spots, and the flow was pretty slow compared to other games, so just I couldn't raise it up. At number 143, Arkloff Peak from Modern Warfare 2019. I don't think it was a bad map. It was just too big for 6v6. It should have been reserved for 10v10 or even 20v20. I think it would have been fine, but in 6v6, it was too slow paced. The spawns, they were odd. There was camping spots where people would sit their butts out, I know, and mess up the flow even more. I don't think it's the worst ever, but it had to have a spot. At number 142 today, Upheaval from World at War. One of the few maps in World at War that I legitimately disliked. It was just a bit too kitchen sink for my liking. Every COD game has one or two maps that ditch the traditional map design and go for realism, like simulating an actual battlefield where there's lots of busted buildings, random paths, camping spots. Upheaval was one of the better air quote realistic maps of this era, but it was also the one map in World at War that I legitimately didn't like playing on. Maybe I'm the minority here, I don't know. I just think I didn't think it was fun. At number 141, Frequency from Black Ops 4. Does anybody have good memories on this map? It was forgettable all around except for the frustrating cliff that overlooked it. Yeah, the map itself was basic, but for some reason, Treyarch decided to put a giant cliff over one side of the map, so if someone called in a kill streak, you could literally not shoot it down if you were spawning on that side, which is cheating. If the cliff was removed, it would be a C+ map, but since the cliff is there, it's a C-. And the last one on today's Part 5. We got a long way to go. Long way to go. Turn on notifications. Number 140. Whiteout from Ghost. It was pretty, had some really cool sights, but I honestly don't have anything good to say beyond that. Whiteout was yet another Ghost map, too big, but had way too much going on and shouldn't have been in the 6v6 rotation. It wasn't as bad as some of the others, but it's lower tier, and that's where we're at. We've got Cracked from Black Ops 1. Now, it felt like it belonged in Modern Warfare 2 instead of Black Ops 1, but it did have a fun factor to it. The sight lines were long and the standoffs were pretty intense, but much like Crisis, it was way too big for 6v6, and once again, Treyarch agreed because they literally cut the map in half for party modes. In Ground War, it was good, but we're talking about 6v6 versions of these maps, and it's down here. I love party modes, though. I did. Little slow pace, but they were fun. And the common theme so far is a lot of these maps are just too big. At number 138 today, Moscow from Black Ops Cold War. Now, when the Cold War beta dropped, people hated it, but I think the community has warmed up a little bit with it now that the game's been out a while. There's a better understanding of the game flow. Moscow is still a pretty complex map with a lot going on, which can be frustrating if you want some old school COD vibe action, but I don't think it's as bad as some people initially said, or myself. Don't get me wrong, it's not good. It's at number 138, but yeah. At number 137, some would say this is this map's downfall. Downfall from World at War. One of the biggest 6v6 maps in COD history. It was a gigantic map that felt like an epic battlefield with all the busted up buildings, tanks, driving around, but it didn't play well. In War Game mode, fantastic. But on the other game modes, way too big. Just not good game flow. You couldn't establish it. I guess I'll put it here because in the grand scheme of things, there was a lot of potential. It was just easy to screw it up. At number 136, Carbon from Modern Warfare 3. Now, Carbon looked cool, but it could get pretty unbalanced pretty fast. The map took place on the side of a hill, and the winner was almost always whoever spawned on the high ground. There was a few buildings you could fight over, but ultimately, if you held the high ground, you won the match. Now, I do think there's some interesting fights here in Demolition. It was fun. It was, but it's largely forgotten for the reasons I mentioned. At number 135 today, Scorch from Infinite Warfare. It's kind of a frustrating map. Very reliant on wall running and boost jumping, but the walls, they felt too long, and the ledges, they felt a little too high. Let me ask you, if I'm the only one who thought that, if the map had been smaller, maybe by 3 to 4%, I think it could have been better. But as it stands, it was one of the lower tier maps in Infinite Warfare, in my opinion. At number 134 today, Strike from COD 4. I think this is one of the most forgettable maps in Call of Duty history. It took place in the middle of a busted up town. It did have some cool sights to it, but it wasn't fun to play, and I wouldn't even say it was bad. It was just boring. Everybody was always running around the B flag, except for the handful of people who were walking around the outskirts not doing anything at all. It could be fun to play here, but most of the time, you just got bored. At number 133, I'm going to get some flack for this. Array from Black Ops 1, the big satellite map that everybody remembers, but not many people actually enjoyed it. You know who you are. Now, it had iconic COD imagery, but in terms of game flow, people were split. The map was all about controlling that middle structure, and if you couldn't get control of it, you were in for a rough time. Your team really had to work here, and that's not always a strong suit in Call of Duty. I loved it, but I think it belongs somewhere around here when compared to every other COD map, and yes, you'd have the douchebag that would go up on the tower with his claymore and try to snipe. At number 132, Underpass from Modern Warfare 2. Few problems. Visibility. Visibility again. It wasn't a bad map. You couldn't see. Sniping was fun, but the limited visibility made flanking pretty easy. However, with that being said, a lot of people would just sit in those little small rooms with shotguns and go for cheap kill streaks. I think this is a fair spot. We're not halfway through, but let's just keep going. At number 131 today, Siege from Ghost. Raise your hand if you don't remember this map. I mean, it was a very long map, featured a long runway from one end to the other, and then some buildings and cover pieces on the left and right side of the main lane. It wasn't really a 3-lane map as much as it was just a 1-lane map with some random stuff along the way. It wasn't offensively bad like some other Ghost maps, but I honestly forgot it was in the game until I started making this video, which means it wasn't very memorable, which means it probably wasn't very good. At number 130, raise your hand if you don't remember this one. Crusher from Infinite Warfare. It was too big. Middle lane was super long, one of the side lanes was too long, and the other side was too tight. Now, I would say Crusher was on the lower end of average, starting to border on bad. I would tolerate it, but I don't really have anything good to say about it. It doesn't stick in my memory banks. If it had been reserved for Ground War, it would have been better. At number 129, Gibraltar from COD World War II. Now, it's thematically one of my favorite maps in COD World War II, but playing it, well, the spawns were pretty far back, which meant you spent more time running around than I would have liked, and it also meant you could spawn trap the enemy pretty easily just by holding the middle of the flag where the B flag was. Now, maybe it was a tad overplayed since it was one of the beta maps, but I wasn't really impressed. I do think it was one of the better maps that launched with COD World War II, but that's not saying much. I think we only got 9 maps. At number 128 today, Garrison from Black Ops Cold War. Does anybody remember this map leaked months ahead of Cold War's reveal? Then we played on it, and we were like, it's a cool map to run around on, but the flow, it was off. A lot of players weren't a fan of how cluttered the inside was and how big the outside was, but ultimately, I don't think it was a bad map. I think it was a decent C+ map in my opinion, and I think this placement on this video reflects that. At number 127, Ambush from COD 4. This is hit or miss. It depended on who you were, okay? It was a big map, and while there was a lot of fun to be had sniping the middle or sneaking around the outskirts, matches were often turned into campfest and spawn traps instead of actual tense showdowns. It wasn't a bad map. It was just really easy to exploit, and playing here was either really fun or really boring. Kind of middle of the road. At number 126, Aachen? I don't even know how to say this map from COD World War II. I don't even think I've played it, to be honest with you. Now, I respect Sledgehammer for actually changing the map after the beta. I did play it. It was in the beta. Because the community didn't like it, but it was set up in the middle of a blown-up city. And it was mainly mid-range with a lot of head glitches, which could be a problem if you weren't into that playstyle. Now, like other World War II maps, it was beautiful to look at. The art team deserves all the praise in the world, but playing on it, it was forgettable because I didn't remember it. At number 125, Villa from Black Ops 1. I liked this map, even if it was a little big for 6v6. It featured the main structure that overlooked the courtyard. Then there was a few streets you could take to, flank the enemy team, get the drop on them. Treyarch even cut it in half for party modes as well, and in 6v6, it did get slow, but it was still fun. And we're going to start getting to the point in the video where every map is better and enjoyable. Some are just less enjoyable than others, so keep that in mind because we're going worst to best here. At number 124 today, Breakout from Infinite Warfare. It was okay. I really wish I had more to say about it, but I don't remember a lot of Infinite Warfare maps. I know what they look like. I try to remember, but I didn't play them a lot. 3 lanes, high spots, indoor spots. You forget about it once the match is over. I think that's all that needs to be said. I do commend Infinity Ward for launching this game without very many flat-out bad maps. They're just average. At number 123 today, Evac from Black Ops 3. Now, this map was pretty big. Spawns were weird, but there was something about it that people liked. There wasn't as much combat as other Black Ops 3 maps, but the style and the flow really pulled people in. I don't really know how to put my finger on it. Maybe someone in the comments could describe it, but Evac was one of the better maps in Black Ops 3 despite being pretty big, which is usually the opposite of how it works in a COD game. At number 122 today, Cargo from Black Ops 2. Now, I have mixed feelings on this map. On one hand, I respect that Treyarch tried to make something more dynamic with all the shipping containers moving around in the center area, but with that being said, the map got campy. In free-for-all and S&D, it was alright, but in other respawn game modes, it was a hot mess. I think it's a fair spot, but I have very mixed feelings about Cargo. I doubt I'm probably alone in that. At number 121 today, Ascend from Advanced Warfare. I'll give Sledge some points here. They tried something new. It just didn't work. Weird map set in a facility. While it was technically a 3-lane map, one of the side lanes was way bigger than the others, which would do some weird things to the game flow. I also think the visibility wasn't as good here as some other maps, which made it frustrating to play from time to time. I think 121 is a fair spot. At number 120, Overgrown from COD 4. Now, Overgrown isn't everybody's cup of tea, but if you're one of the people it catered to, you love it. You're probably mad at me right now. Sniping is the name of the game on Overgrown. Tons of long sight lines, tons of long engagements, and if you didn't have good aim with a rifle, just go back to the lobby. It loses a few points for it being so hard committed to one playstyle, but it gets a few points for being such a great sniping map overall. Yeah. At number 119, I bet you don't remember this one, Morocco from Black Ops 4. Of all the original maps, it was my least favorite. I just think there was a little too much happening. There was a lot of weird hiding spots and alternate route places. I mean, maybe I sound like a hypocrite for saying that because I always praise 3-lane maps for having alternate routes, but on Morocco, I just felt like it was a little too cluttered to be good. At number 118 today, District from COD 4. Now, this is a map that a lot of people hated for being too complex, but I think it was glasses half full, one of the better complex maps in COD history. Still a 3-lane experience. While there was a lot of set pieces and alternate routes to the enemy, just about any playstyle was viable, and it should be worth mentioning. It's not getting a very high ranking on this list, but it's a solid map and a good example of how to do a more complicated map the right way. No, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't better than traditional COD maps, but it did get the job done better than some others. I'll let you guys decide if that's a positive on District or a negative on everything else. At number 117, Hunted from Black Ops 3. Now, Hunted feels like it was specifically designed for certain game modes because certain other game modes played like crap. Safeguard, it was good. TDM was good. Free-for-all sucked. Domination was atrocious. You guys get the deal. Hunted was a very inconsistent map, although I will give Treyarch credit for doing some big overhauls of the lighting after people complained about the visibility. At number 116, Hanoi from Black Ops 1. It had a cool vibe to it. I just think it was a little underappreciated, but I'm going to put it mid-tier because it wasn't quite as good as some of the other Black Ops 1 maps. It was nice to have a good nighttime map for a change, and it was a lot of fun to run around on, but the open mid section could sometimes be a bit problematic for game flow. And yes, it's a night map. There's probably too many camping spots for my liking, but it was still a fun map. I remember it. At number 115, Carrier from Black Ops 2. Man, great for sniping, awesome for custom matches, but for actual gameplay, whew, mixed bag. A lot of camping potential here, and it seemed like you couldn't take 3 steps into the center area without someone blasting you in the dome with their DSR from a head glitch on the other side of the map. Also, don't mention the inside lane. It was a cluster. It was. I want to know, did you guys like Carrier? I'm on the fence here. At number 114, Sovereign from Ghost. It's the coolest map at Ghost, I think, launch map, even if it was big. Took place in a tank factory. It let you run around the facility while sniping at people from a distance or camping in the staircases and offices. Now, I like Sovereign more than other Ghost maps, but looking back on it, I'm not sure if that's just because it was cooler than others or because it was legitimately better. I don't know. At number 113 today, Mayday from Infinite Warfare. This is one of those maps that I do applaud Infinity Ward for technical and design fronts, okay? Visually, it was awesome. You walk around and look at it, there's a lot going on in the background. Granted, though, this could sometimes lead to frame drops in combat, which was frustrating. The layout itself wasn't anything special. I remember the map more than other Infinite Warfare ones, so I put it a little higher. At number 112, I remember this one a lot. Aquarium in Black Ops 3. Now, I know a lot of people hated the map, but I can't figure it out. It was colorful, decent flow, one of the most unique maps on this list. I mean, when was the last time you played an FPS in an aquarium? Wasn't amazing. Most Black Ops 3 maps weren't, but it got the job done, and there was some really intense section of maps that people could congregate in. Domination was fun. I thought it was perfectly passable. I don't get the hate around it. At number 111 today, Overflow from Black Ops 2. Now, Overflow felt like one of the lower tier Black Ops 1 maps, and I'm not sure what to make of it. Very cluttered, but still had solid flow. It wasn't anyone's favorite, but it wasn't bad or anything. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this map because it's not really what people thought about when they thought about Black Ops 2. It was just there. At number 110 today, Crossfire from COD 4. Now, Crossfire was an interesting idea for a map. Uphill battle, lots of snipers, well suited for stealthy play too. If you threw on a suppressor and a UAV jammer, you could get work done. You could get a lot of work done. Grab a sniper, set yourself up on one of the buildings. It was fun. Mid-tier in the grand scheme of COD maps, but it was a good map on its own. At number 109, Sainte Marie du Mont. Now, from COD World War II. bigger maps in COD World War II. They're okay. I do know a lot of the community wasn't stoked about this one. It was another map that was just sitting there in the middle of the rankings. Had a little bit of verticality, some flanking routes, making, I don't know, it was all right. It had 3 lanes, you know the drill. It was just kind of sitting there. It was kind of boring, kind of middle of the road. At number 108 today, Militia from Black Ops 4. Is it weird to say the lanes were too far on this map? I think the lanes were too, they were fat. Seemed like each of the 3 lanes had too much space on them, and it really threw the game off. Maybe it's just me. It wasn't a bad map, and there were some interesting engagements, but I can't help but wonder if it would have been better if the lanes had been more condensed. You let me know. Maybe we're being too nitpicky. At number 107 today, Asylum from World at War. It's a fan favorite in the zombies community, but the multiplayer version, not so much. It wasn't bad, but it was one of the less loved maps in World at War. Again, not bad, or anything like that, but compared to the other maps in the game, it didn't stand out much more than the theming. The zombies version was great. Multiplayer version, just kind of there. At number 106, Arcaden, Modern Warfare 3. The shopping mall that a lot of people remember this one for some reason, even though it didn't come up in rotation very often, which was weird too. It did have some cool design. There was some good visuals. There was a lot. I remember a lot of intense matches on this. I would say mid-tier choice, right? Yeah. Last one for today, guys. Number 105. Havoc in Black Ops 3. I think this is one of the most forgettable maps from that game. It was set on the desert seaside with a big annoying building on the side of the map. There was always one person camping with a shotgun or an SMG. Not a bad map, but it definitely, you don't hear about it, which doesn't feel right because it's not even close to being the worst map. It had some fun gimmicks to it. It flowed okay, but it just, I don't know. I think it's a fair spot. 105 is a fair spot. Do me a favor, though. If you guys want to follow back, hit me up on Twitter and let me know you came from Team Chaos YouTube. I will be following back a ton of you. I'll put a link at the top of the description. Twitter is by far my most active social media platform. But now, it's time to focus. We stopped at 105 yesterday, so today, we start at 104. None other than Yemen from Black Ops 2. Now, it's often overlooked in the Black Ops 2 catalog, but I think it was better than people realize. It was one of the bigger maps in Black Ops 2, and it certainly had more going on it. I mean, there's a lot going on, but that's not bad. The flow was good, the layout was balanced, and it worked well in almost every game mode. I think it was a pretty decent map all around. Not a top 5 map or anything, but it was solid. Understand, we're going to start getting into where maps are good. You just have to find a spot for them. And what was the match? Was it Envy versus somebody where it was this major comeback? They were down in, I don't remember. It was some crazy competitive match. I don't remember. Anyway. At number 103, Horizon from Advanced Warfare. Now, one of the many Advanced Warfare maps set in a factory or facility of some kind. It was pretty complicated as a map when compared to other choices in AW. Lots of hallways, lots of indoor areas, wasn't much of an emphasis on the movement. This one really depended on who you were. If you didn't like jetpacks, you probably had a better opinion of Horizon than people who did like jetpacks. I'll let you guys take that as you will. At number 102, Skydock from Infinite Warfare. Now, Skydock was all about the long lanes and sight lines, which some people loved, other people hated. You couldn't hold aim from a distance. You basically got stuck in the small corridors, which wasn't what everyone wanted to do in a game like this. It was okay. I mean, I guess. I didn't play on it very much, but I'm sure some of you will have something to say about it. At number 101, I played on this a lot. Outskirts from World at War. The iconic Saving Private Ryan map. Outskirts was a gigantic map where all the fighting basically revolved around the church in the center. If you controlled the church, you controlled the entire match. Yes, the tanks could make things a little chaotic, and the church itself wasn't very big, but the map was a lot of fun to play on, and even if you haven't ever played World at War, or you haven't in a decade, you probably have some memories of Saving Private Ryan's church tower, right? At number 100 today, Arsenal from Black Ops 4. Don't worry, I'm not talking about the awful Sandstorm variant here. I'm talking about the regular Arsenal. Okay spawns, okay flow, okay cover. I do think it was a little too easy to camp in the middle lane, but most people hung out on the side lanes, and it didn't really matter that much. There's not a whole lot to say about this map. Let's move on. At number 99, Point du Hoc. Point du Hoc, Point du Hoc. I don't even know how to say it. COD World War II. Love it or hate it map, I know that. Some people hated how powerful shotguns were thanks to all the trenches and the close quarters combat. Other people loved it for that exact same reason. Personally, I think it was overplayed. It was a decent map, I guess. It had a lot of dynamics to it, and you can make most any play style work if you tried. I think mid-tier's fair. At number 98 today, Interchange from Modern Warfare 3. Now, this is one of the most memorable maps from MW3, but I really don't think it was great. I mean, hear me out. Everybody remembers it. Not many people thought it was a top 5 map in the game. I guess it did have some cool visuals, but the map flow was odd with how open all the lanes were. I mean, it was just a busted up freeway, so the lanes weren't really going to be defined that much in the first place. It was okay. Probably upper mid-tier. At number 97, Octane from COD Ghost. Now, Octane is an appropriate name for this map because when compared to the rest, the pace was significantly faster. There was a handful of maps in Ghost that the old school community gravitated towards, and Octane was one of those. It wasn't amazing, but it certainly got you into more fights than other Ghost maps, and that's got to be worth something. I mean, I'm sorry if it seems like I'm harping on Ghost with these maps, but let's face it, the launch maps in Ghost, they weren't very good. This was a fun competitive map to watch, though. At number 96, Turbine from Black Ops 2. Raise your hand if you like this map. Raise your hand if you remember the trailer. Turbine has been controversial over the years because some people loved it for the long sight lines and emphasis on sniping. Other people hated it. It was a sniper map, yes, through and through. So if you didn't like sniping, you probably were going to back out. Now, if you were a sniper, you probably voted it and voted it and voted it. I think 96 is a fair place. At number 95 today, Green Band from Advanced Warfare. Now, if you didn't like advanced movement, you probably hated Green Band because it was essential. It was the quintessential bunny hopping map, and if you were into that, this was your map. Super chaotic, the flow was ridiculous, but since you had a jetpack at your disposal, that chaos was pretty fun. There were some pretty big design flaws here, but it was still fun to play on, so I think it's a fair spot to put it at number 95 today. At number 94, Infected from Black Ops 3. This was one of the most played maps in BO3, but it wasn't really a fan favorite, which is a little odd. It was just there. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was inoffensive and perfectly fine in terms of game flow, but with how much the map got voted in rotation, you would think it would have been better. It's not bad, it's not good. It's just kind of sitting in the middle. At number 93, Hacienda from Black Ops 4. The Twilight version of this map is one of the worst Treyarch maps ever created, but the standard version is okay. It kind of reminded me a bit of Showdown from COD 4, but less dynamic. Yes, you had more movement options on Hacienda, but the flow wasn't as good, and it felt like you didn't have as many options for engagements. Decent enough, nothing crazy. At number 92, Satellite from Black Ops Cold War. I find this one interesting. It's a big open desert with a handful of cover points, but for the most part, this is where the snipers come out to play, or the SMG sweats rush at each other. It's a map that some people have gotten burned down on because of how long we've been playing on it, but it's decent. It was one of the better maps in Black Ops Cold War if you ask me, so it's at number 92. At number 91 today, Instinct from Advanced Warfare. Now visually, this is my favorite map in Advanced Warfare. In terms of gameplay, it's a mixed bag. One hand, I love the more open combat arenas here, but on the other hand, it really didn't feel like there was a lot going on. It kind of felt like a blank canvas map, and there's nothing wrong with that on its own. I guess I just wish there was a little more going on with the map design on Instinct because the visuals and theming, they were really good. It could have been a COD Legacy map if the layout was just a little bit better. At number 90, Icebreaker from Black Ops 4. Pretty cool idea for a map, a frozen over, busted up cargo ship in the middle of the ocean. You could run around the ship itself as well as the ice on the outskirts. I like it. How was the flow though? It was decent, I guess. I mean, the original Black Ops 4 maps were all pretty standard with their 3-lane design, but that meant none of them really stood out, but none of them were really bad either. At number 89 today, Tremor from COD Ghost. Now compared to other maps in Ghost, Tremor felt more like a traditional IW map, like something out of Modern Warfare 3 or COD 4. It was on the bigger side with the routes, but they were more direct than the other Ghost maps, and you could get into combat just a little bit easier and faster. It's not going to be on my superstar-studded playlist of COD maps, but at least it was better than Stonehaven. At number 88 today, Comeback from Advanced Warfare. We are in a busted-up region of a city, right? Pretty circular map when you get down to it. Sure, the map wasn't literally a circle, but when you played on it, it kind of felt like the combat always seemed to go round and round and round. I mean, am I the only one who noticed that? Regardless, though, it was a decent map. Pretty solid, nothing super good or bad. It was definitely a cool sight, but I don't know how many points that should get it on the list today. At number 87, Solar from Advanced Warfare. This is one of the most recognizable maps in AW, but I think that's because of the art style and the bright colors. I don't think the map itself was that great. A lot of long corridors, sight lines made it kind of awkward in a game like AW that was supposed to be a tad more fast-paced and action-packed. It wasn't awful, but I definitely think it was more of a visual spectacle than actually a really good map for Call of Duty. At number 86 today, CeeLo from World at War. One of the biggest maps in COD history. It actually played surprisingly well in 6v6, which is crazy. I mean, a tad on the slow side, but come on. A lot of open fields, intense building fights, and a few tanks to keep things spicy, and who can forget all the showdowns that happened on the bridge in the center of the map. Now, a lot of people hated CeeLo for the size, but honestly, I liked it. Yes, it was big, but it flowed really well, and just about every game mode was exciting, which is super hard to do on a map this big. I probably should have ranked it higher. At number 85 today, Bootleg from Modern Warfare 3. It's kind of the spiritual successor to Downpour and Overpass. Every Modern Warfare game needs to have a rainy, boggy map, and Bootleg, well, this was MW3's offering. So how did it hold up compared to those others? Okay, it was a little more dynamic than the other rainy maps, but it was probably mid-tier in the grand scheme of things. The visibility wasn't that great. Routes were a little limited, but since the map was pretty big, you could get some nice battle lines going, and you'd have to strategize in order to hold the objectives consistently. I liked it. I think 85 is fair. At number 84, Retreat from Advanced Warfare. Now, we could use some more Sunset maps at COD. I think Retreat was pretty cool to look at and run around. Was it fun to play on? I think so. There's a lot of indoor and outdoor areas for you to mess around with, and the flow could get a little weird and wonky at times, depending on the game mode, but it was solid. I think it was solid. It worked well most of the time. Average, but not bad. At number 83 today, Lockdown from Modern Warfare 3. It looks something straight out of the campaign, and a lot of people loved that. Now, there was a few main vantage points that people would fight over, and the snipers could do really well there, but you could also find great success playing stealthy and running around the hallways of the buildings. You could pick off those snipers if you wanted to. I liked it. I know it wasn't for everybody, but it was good for me. At number 82 today, Ramaza from Modern Warfare 2019. All things considered, it's decent. Tad on the bigger side for 6v6, but it was well lit, and it was a pretty standard 3-lane design. It wasn't going to blow your socks off with the map design of Modern Warfare being so controversial, but it was a decent enough choice. It was better for 10v10, but it played okay on 6v6. At number 81 today, Karachi from Modern Warfare 2. It's funny how now COD maps set in busted up cities all feel kind of similar, but back in Modern Warfare 2, they had this really unique vibe to them. Karachi was rather complex from the top down, but when you started running around, it flowed well. Lots of power positions, lots of intense standoffs, a ton of great memories going for nukes, although, that being said, I think it was one of the harder maps to get a nuke on because of the different routes you had to cover. And the last one today, my friends, at number 80, is Gridlock from Black Ops 4. This map felt like it belonged in a Sledgehammer game as opposed to a Treyarch one, but that's not a bad thing. I think it flowed well enough, and it had some cool sights as well. Constant action, intense firefights. It wouldn't blow your socks off once again. You probably wouldn't go back. You probably weren't going to back out of it. It was that good. Now, I think it's a top 80 map. At number 80, welcome everybody, Gridlock from Black Ops 4. Now, this map felt like it belonged in a Sledgehammer game as opposed to a Treyarch one, but that's not a bad thing. I think it flowed pretty well, and it had some cool sights as well. I mean, constant action, intense firefights. Gridlock, it wasn't going to blow you away, but you also probably didn't back out of it that much. So, to me, that probably means it's pretty good. At number 79 today, Payload from Black Ops 4. Now, in terms of concept, I think Payload was one of the coolest maps in Black Ops 4. The layout was linear. It was straightforward, but sometimes that's what you need in a Call of Duty game. It was one of the better original maps in BO4, but I'm going to let you guys decide. Is that a compliment, or is that a backhanded insult? Black Ops 4 kind of struggled in the original map department, so I'll leave it up to you guys. At number 78, Bakara from Modern Warfare 3. The one map I think I got a Moab on. If you were a sniper, you loved this map. It was pretty underrated because of how many maps were in MW3 and how slow it could be sometimes, but if you were playing Demolition or Dom, a good sniper could have a field day with all these vantage points. Throw down a little portable radar, scope in with your MSR or your L118, and you'll have your specialist bonus in no time. At number 77, Azir Cave from Modern Warfare 2019. Now, hear me out. It kind of grew on me. It was a stunning map, and it had some decent flow. I know, a lot of people hated it. It did stick to the traditional 3-lane design for the most part. In certain game modes, yes, it could get one-sided, but if you look back now, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't crazy. It was just kind of there. At number 76, so many memories. Radiation from Black Ops 1. This map had some very weird game flow, but it's very nostalgic for me. You were doing battle outside a radiation plant. You could weave in and out of the main building as well as open up the doors to the basement if you knew where the button was. Radiation could get a little hectic with people constantly opening and closing those blast doors, but it was a lot of fun to play. I think it belongs somewhere around this spot, and we're starting to get into the upper tier stuff. At number 75, Subbase from Modern Warfare 2. I think this is one of the best 3-lane maps back in the day, but it was untraditional. Instead of having you run around those 3 lanes, it was almost like you were running alongside them. If you zipped in and out of cover, blew people away with your ACR or your UMP, I liked it. Probably mid-tier in Modern Warfare 2, but with how loaded Modern Warfare 2 was with great maps, mid-tier in that game could be upper tier in the grand scheme of Call of Duty. At number 74. Recovery from AW. This is one of the most popular maps in AW, and I get it. The visuals are great, the theming was cool, the layout was pretty simple, but it was simple in a good way. The 3-lane design worked really well here. It kept the action constant without feeling too absurd. Plus, this was 2 maps in one, since people could eventually be forced into the new region after a volcanic eruption. I thought that was really cool. I liked the first phase of the map. Some people preferred the second. You let me know. I thought it was pretty cool altogether. At number 73 today, hangar from World at War. I liked it. It was made up of 2 areas, the actual hangar where most of the fighting went down, then the exterior where people would try to force their way in and block the enemy team out. In war mode, hangar was insane, even in other modes, TDM. It could get pretty insane. I was a huge fan of this. The maps in World at War, I don't feel get enough credit. At number 72. Breach from Black Ops 3. Now, personally, I think this map was underrated. Had a good balance of old school design philosophy and new school advanced movement areas. Some people hung out in the middle lane, taking snipes at each other, while other people were running around the side lanes and getting behind them. It was definitely more jetpack heavy than other Black Ops 3 maps, but I liked it, and it looked good too. At number 71. Cartel from Black Ops Cold War. Now, during the beta, Cartel was one of the most hated maps in the game because of the visibility, but that's been improved upon. Nothing too crazy, definitely more old school vibes than others in Cold War. Cartel reminds me of a Black Ops 1 map in a good way, but not quite that caliber. But, if this is the kind of stuff Treyarch is going to be designing going forward, we're okay. I think we're okay, as long as they do it right. At number 70, Meltdown from Black Ops 2. Was I the only one who liked watching this map? I definitely like watching it in Search and Destroy competitive. Standard on paper, but played well. Center lane, people sniped each other. Indoor side lane, people got sneaky. The other side lane, where people just flanked each other and tried to surprise people in the center lane. It was fun. It wasn't upper tier in Black Ops 2, but it was a good map. At number 69 today, Defender from Advanced Warfare. The Oceanside map that everybody remembers, because I think this was where we got our first reveal. It was a popular choice with competitive players. The dynamics, the balance of open spaces, indoor combat zones. Plus, you have to look out for the big tidal wave that would come in every once in a while. I thought it was pretty cool. There was even a map-specific score streak called the Anti-Air Laser System, but I don't think many people remember that, which is odd, but I liked it. At number 68, Stronghold from Black Ops 3. I don't think the map gets enough love. It looked good, it played pretty well for the most part, just about every play style worked. Yes, it was a tad big for some people, and there were a couple annoying spawn traps in the game, but it's Black Ops 3. There weren't that many standout maps. I think Stronghold was one of the better ones. It wasn't amazing, but it was better than some others. At number 67, Fallen from Modern Warfare 3. Now, I thought this map was good, but I don't think it got enough appreciation. It was a medium-sized map, lots of emphasis on holding the high ground, firing down on people, going for objectives below you. With all that being said, though, the low ground had a lot of cover. You still had a fighting chance if you wanted to be the low ground warrior. I think Drop Zone and Demolition were a ton of fun here. At number 66, Fringe from Black Ops 3. Definitely the most popular sniping map in BO3. It had a ton of long sight lines and power positions for you to fire at each other from, or maybe you were the guy running around with Ghost and Blast Suppressor to sneak up on those said snipers. Now, if you weren't a sniper, you probably weren't the biggest fan of Fringe, but if you got the hang of Black Ops 3's weird sniping mechanics, you probably had a blast here. At number 65 today, Invasion from Modern Warfare 2. Now, this was one of the more basic maps in MW2, but that's okay. MW2 had some of the best maps in FPS history, so we're going to cut Infinity Ward a little slack here. They can't knock it out of the park every time, or can they? No, they can't. Invasion was a good map, solid flow, exciting action. It just wasn't quite as unique as some of the others. It felt pretty simple, but it was fun. Lots of memories on this map. At number 64, Contraband from Black Ops 4. Map was visually stunning, and in Domination, there's some pretty exciting showdowns for that B flag. I also like the way it incorporated water and swimming to make it feel kind of natural. The big problem with the water maps in COD is that the devs make it too central to the combat, and that just turns you into a sitting duck. But I think Contraband did it well. It flowed pretty well, and I think it was one of the better maps to launch with Black Ops 4. At number 63 today, Riot from Advanced Warfare. Now, this was one of the most unique maps in AW in terms of its layout. You had the center building, all the surrounding areas outside, but then you also had multiple levels inside, and you could get on the roof of the main structure, which made things even more dynamic. It was definitely a jetpack-heavy map, but if you were willing to deal with that, I thought it was fun. Plus, it was one of the easier maps for people to get DNA bombs on. At number 62, Airfield from World at War. This has to be one of the most unconventional maps in COD history. When you look at it from the top down, it looks like a big field with a bunch of random set pieces, but when you spawn in and you start fighting, it's extremely immersive, and the spawns are good enough to keep you from getting trapped in one spot. It was good. It's a great example of how to make a good non-3-lane map. There were so many routes to take to get from objective to objective, and it was a ton of fun to play. Once again, lots of memories here. At number 61, Warhawk from Ghost. This map reminded me a lot of Standoff from Black Ops 2. I know I'm not alone here. It's one of the more popular maps in Ghost. It was small, lots of engagements. You could get from gunfight to gunfight pretty easily, and it played really well in competitive modes like Search and Destroy. If Ghost had a few more maps like this one, I don't think its reputation would have been nearly as bad. The small maps did really well in that game. At number 60, Countdown from COD 4. Now, Countdown was a very unique map in the sense that it didn't have lanes at all. Instead, it was a giant battleground with random cover pieces and garages for you to duck in and go out. The lack of lanes and verticality, well, it turned some people off, but other people liked it. It was chaos, no pun intended. The flow was weird, but it was a fun time, and sometimes that's enough. At number 59, Escape from Modern Warfare 2. One of the most unbalanced maps in COD history. It was all about who could control the center building the longest. If you controlled the building, you controlled the match. But, with that being said, it did lead to a lot of blowouts and campy matches, but it was also fun. It was frustrating when one team literally spawned at the building, the other had to fight up the hill to get control. But it's iconic. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have put it this high, but it's a state. Come on. At number 58 today, Underground from Modern Warfare 3. It's one of those maps that nobody remembers by name, but once you see the picture of it, all the memories come flooding back. Pretty mid-tier map on the surface, but it played pretty well, which is weird because hardly anybody talks about the map. It was one of the staple Modern Warfare 3 maps, but nobody ever brings it up when they're talking about the game. I don't know why that is. The world never... I don't know. They just never will know. At number 57, WMD from Black Ops 1. This is one of the best sniping maps in COD history. It featured lots of high ground, lots of flanking routes, lots of intense standoffs from end to end. Plus, there was the middle building with the B flag, which was basically just the wild card of the match because you never knew what angle people were going to shoot you from. But if you could remain in control of it, you could turn the tide of an entire match. I love this map. I think it needs to come back sooner than later. I do. At number 56, Quarry from Modern Warfare 2. Are we ever going to get a remake of this one? I'm shocked we haven't. It was all about verticality. There's a million places where you can fall to your death, which is a rarity in COD games. There was a few key choke points, but it was mostly about knowing your routes, figuring out where people were going to be rotating, and doing work. It's never been remade, which is weird, because I thought it was a popular pick back in the day. At number 55 today, Launch from Black Ops 1. I love this map. It blew everyone's minds with the fact that you could launch a rocket in the middle of the match and then change the map for the rest of the game. Very old school FPS vibes with 2 team spawn areas, and then you run at each other. You do battle in the big center area, which was kind of like something you'd see in Halo or Gears of War as opposed to COD, but it worked. I would love to see this one come back. I know it was remade in Black Ops 4, but I don't know. It was locked behind the Black Ops pass. At number 54, Terrace from Advanced Warfare. Now, this was a lot of people's favorite map in the game. I see why. It really let you feel the power of the exosuits. You scaled floor to floor, seaside town. Combat was fun. There's a lot of levels of verticality in this map, and if you were an active Advanced Warfare player, you probably got a kick out of this one every time it popped up in rotation. Now, if you didn't like jetpacks, you probably backed out immediately. At number 53, Macon from World at War. Now, a lot of you probably remember the DLC map Macon Day, but the original Macon was really good. In fact, I'd say it was one of the best night maps we've ever gotten. You make your way from the hut to the hut, sneak around the darkness, try to find the enemy without getting exposed, go in the water. War mode was insane here. This is one of the few maps where signal flares in World at War actually helped. I thought this was a really good map. At number 52 today, Pipeline from COD 4. Now, there are a lot of people who hate this map, and I never understand why. It was big for 6v6, but the flow was good. It had some of the craziest power positions in COD. There was the 3 main buildings in the middle of the map. You could also get on the rooftop of one, give yourself visibility over the entire map at the cost of cover. It was balanced in that essence. Some people didn't like how big it was, but I thought it was underrated. At number 51 today, Seaside from Black Ops 4. Now, of all the original maps in Black Ops 4, I think this is the one that most people remember. It was a cool map visually and the flow was solid. It definitely had the most verticality of all the original BO4 maps, and the focus on power positions and map control, it was good. It felt like a solid old school Treyarch map, like something straight out of Black Ops 2, and I approve of that. Plus the Sunset variant was gorgeous, so there's another plus. COD should really experiment more with weather variants or just dynamic weather systems like Rainbow Six Siege does. At number 50 today, Village from Modern Warfare 3. A fan favorite map that is still somehow a tad underrated in my opinion. It was a big map, had a lot of interesting set pieces, had verticality for you to play around with, and the game flow was not bad for a map surprisingly of this size. There was a brief moment when people thought Village was going to come back in Modern Warfare 2019, but that never happened. That rumor got the community hyped. Maybe next time. At number 49 today, Biolab from AW. It was fun. I mean, you ran around on foot. It was like a standard Call of Duty map, but then you could bust through windows, scale the walls, run along the ceiling. It was fun to watch, too, and competitive. I mean, it was kind of a map design Advanced Warfare needed more of. I put a lot of time into AW, but I'll admit the maps weren't the strong suit, but Biolab, it was a standout. At number 48, Freight from Ghosts. This was one of the most popular maps in Ghost because it was a little bit more straightforward than the rest. Yes, it was really big, but at least it had some clear battle lines and the game flow was more direct. Plus, train yards are a cool place to set an FPS map. I don't know what it is about it, but they are. It was upper tier in Ghost and probably around mid-tier in the grand scheme of Call of Duty, and competitive was fun to watch, especially Blitz. At number 47, Checkmate from Black Ops Cold War. This is the resident chaotic map of Black Ops Cold War, and I think it's people's favorite. Set in an airplane hangar with Air Force One sitting in the dead center. That's cool. Checkmate had a lot of constant action, crazy kill streak potential. Now, there are a decent amount of people who still camp in the middle of the plane like D-bags, but it's Call of Duty. I mean, that's what it is. At number 46, Seatown from Modern Warfare 3. I think this is one of the most underrated MW3 maps. It was a pretty big map, yes, but almost all of it was made of tight corridors that wrapped in and out of each other like tight alleyways, hallways, staircases, bridges, so on and so forth. The map felt small. Plus, drop zone on this map, it was insane. It was super underrated, and I have absolute confidence putting it at number 46 today. At number 45, Gunrunner from Modern Warfare 2019. I think it's safe to say this was one of the better 6v6 maps in that game. Medium-sized map, pretty solid flow, exciting choke points. There were some frustrating spawn points, and objective matches could get a little weird, but I think it was one of the better launch maps. Is that saying a lot? I don't know, but this is where I'm putting it. At number 44, Precinct from IW. I like this map. It felt good. Old school Infinity Ward vibes in terms of theming, but the layout was closer to what you'd expect from a Treyarch game, which I think that's a nice balance for a jetpack game like Infinite Warfare. You had some long range, you had some short range, a few flanking routes. It was a good map, and the theming was the icing on the cake. At number 43 today, Roundhouse from World at War. We need more maps like this in COD. Most COD maps are either 3-lane or some variation on that, but then there's Roundhouse, which is a circular arena-style map where all the fighting took place in the dead center while tanks roamed around the outskirts and messed people up. That's right, the map had tanks. I think it's actually the smallest vehicle map in COD history. It was sick. It's a bummer that not many people actually ever got to play on this. At number 42, Bog from COD 4. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Bog, but I always thought it had a bit of a charm. Medium-sized map, lots of open space for snipers, but it also had natural cover. You could sneak around and do their thing. Plus, the battles for B Flag here in Domination were some of the most intense battles ever. Bog did have a few spawn traps that were annoying to deal with. Yes, there was always one guy camping on the building on the side of the map, but ultimately, I thought it was a good map. At number 41 today, the last one, Favela from Modern Warfare 2. Usually super cluttered maps like this don't go over well with COD, but Favela was a fan favorite. Maybe it's crazy action, maybe it's a giant fight pit with the 2-story buildings, but Favela defied all odds and made it work. If a map like this can be put in COD today, I think it would be a total camp fest, but for some reason it worked well back in Modern Warfare 2. Maybe the community was just different back then, but I loved the map. You see the people on the screen right now. These are people that use the supporter creator code CHAOS in the Warzone and Black Ops Cold War item shop. Thank you so much, and if you guys use it, send me a picture, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, my business email, wherever it is, so I can showcase you guys. Thank you for all the support. Now, it's time. At number 40, Detroit from Advanced Warfare. Now, I think most people will agree this was the best launch map in AW. Rather small, pretty hectic. It was a basic 3-lane map, but that's why it was popular. You didn't have to move very far before you got into the action. There was always outdoor and indoor combat. Plus, you could use the advanced movement pretty sparingly here, so if you were just coming into the jetpack era, you could have some fun without getting too crazy. I think this is probably the most old school feeling map in Advanced Warfare. At number 39 today, Frost from Infinite Warfare. This map was cool. I think it was one of the best in IW. Set in a frozen weapons factory, another traditional 3-lane map with some variation in the side lanes and a very intense showdown area in the middle where the B flag is. A lot of intense choke points. Well, those equal insane fights, especially between players who knew how to use the movement to their advantage. Infinite Warfare had some cool maps. It's just a shame people hated the jetpack era at that time, so they didn't get a lot of love. At number 38, Flag Tower from World War II. This is one of the most popular maps in COD World War II. It was a go-to place for high kill games, at least until Shipment was added as DLC. Standard 3-lane map. It didn't really do anything unique, but it still supplied you with that classic COD gameplay that you came for. I would have liked a little more verticality or maybe an extra flanking route here or there, but if you want a simple map where you can run right at the enemy with an SMG, Flag Tower was it. At number 37, Mission from Modern Warfare 3. This was a fan favorite map. It had you fighting for control of a busted up town on the top of a series of hills. Lots of verticality, lots of power positions, tons of ways to play this map out. Shotguns, SMGs, Assassin Pro. Have it your way. It was another one of those that I'm surprised we haven't seen come back in later COD games because it was such a fan favorite. Maybe in the next Modern Warfare game. Maybe it'll actually happen. At number 36, Cliffside from World at War. This is one of the most recognizable maps from WoW. I mean, it was a medium-sized map, had a lot of long sight lines, and even had one bounce glitch spot where people could go do trick shots. Now, I like the map, but if you weren't a fan of long-range combat, you probably didn't like it very much, so I marked it down a few points for that. It was later remade as the golf course map in Black Ops 1, which I think was a tad better thanks to Black Ops having more guns and kill streaks, but the original is what it is. At number 35, Hackney Yard from Modern Warfare 2019. Most COD players will agree, this was the best 6v6 map in Modern Warfare on launch day. Fast-paced, 3 lanes, but still big enough for you to get your bearings together before jumping into a fight. The spawns, they were frustrating at times, and the matches here could frequently turn into blowouts, but it was a solid map for 6v6 and one of the better choices in Modern Warfare. At number 34, London Docks from World War II. Arguably the best map in COD World War II. It was a traditional 3-lane map, had some interesting variation though between those lanes. You had the middle lane where things got intense, you had the B flag where people would snipe at each other, and then you had the flanking lane where anything could happen. At launch, the spawns were a bit problematic, but after those were patched up, London Docks was one of the better maps and an upper tier map in the grand scheme of things, and it's leaked that it's coming back in DLC in COD Vanguard. At number 33, we have Castle from World at War. This is one of the best Treyarch maps ever in my opinion, but it doesn't get love. It was unconventional. Took place in the middle of a big courtyard, but it lets you run in and out of certain structures. There's a lot of verticality and uphill fights on this, but if you had the high ground, it wasn't an automatic win like other COD maps. It was great, and I'm shocked we haven't gotten it remade recently. It seems like a perfect fit for a remake in modern COD. At number 32, Throwback from Infinite Warfare. This is one of the most played maps in IW, and all things considered, it was good. Set in the middle of a futuristic city, Throwback had a lot of fun verticality. It had set pieces. It stuck to that traditional 3-lane COD design, which people love. You could run right down the middle. You could flank from one side. You could snipe from the other. It was good. Traditional, balanced. I think a tried and true COD map design, and that's unsurprisingly what made it so popular in the Infinite Warfare community. At number 31, Plaza from Black Ops 2. Raise your hand if you camped on the second story in this map. Don't lie. You know you did. Plaza was a nighttime map set outside a nightclub that gave you a lot of routes to get in the enemy's territory. Most people were fighting or sniping in the middle lane, but all the others were being sneaky. They were trying to get around to the side so they could take control of middle lane from the enemy team. It was a constant tug of war for the center lane, and I loved it. At number 30, Dome from World at War. Every COD game has that one small chaotic map that you either love or you hate, but Dome from World at War has to be one of the most underrated. Smallest map in the game, easily one of my favorites, small enough to be crazy and chaotic, but still structured in a way that lets you get your bearings together and establish clear battle lines. I love this map. I don't think it gets enough love, so that's why it's in the top 30. At number 29, we are rolling, people. Frontier from Infinite Warfare. This was one of the first maps we ever saw of IW, and it's one of the most memorable. Small two-story map set on a space station. It was really intense. Tight corridors, plenty of wall run spots, lots of intense showdowns in the middle lane. I liked it. I mean, IW gets hate. People forget, though, there were some good maps. I think this was one of them. At number 28, Backlot from COD 4. This is one of my favorite maps from COD 4. It was an example of how to do a complicated map the right way. It featured a lot of routes, lots of buildings, but still a very fast-paced and exciting map. The buildings weren't just camp centers, they were true power positions, and if you were playing here, the winner was always the team that managed to hold the center buildings the longest. I think COD 4 map design was all about power positions, and Backlot was a fantastic example. It's a great map. Next up at number 27, we have Combine from Black Ops 3. Now, this is by far the most popular map in Black Ops 3. It got spammed at us pretty hard, but most of the community was fine with it since it was solid, traditional 3-lane map. Yeah. The advanced movement wasn't super necessary here. It was a good map to ease people into the jetpack era, especially if they skipped Advanced Warfare. This map was probably the most played map in Black Ops 3, hands down. At number 26, this was probably the most played map in Ghost, hands down, Strike Zone. I think it's the best map in Ghost. I really do. I think it's one of the better maps Infinity Ward has ever made in the last decade or so. It felt like a true Call of Duty map, like something straight out of Modern Warfare 2 or 3. Now, a lot of Ghost loyalists hated it for how fast it played compared to the other maps in the game, but then, on the other hand, a lot of people hated Ghost, but they liked playing Strike Zone because it felt more old school. I'll let you guys hash that out in the comments, but I think it was a really good map, almost top 25. At number 25, Grid from Black Ops 1. One of the most underappreciated maps in the game. Snowy map, kind of looked like Nuketown, but slightly bigger. 2 main buildings, the crosswalk of death, and then a few cars and fields around the main structures to ease you into that cover and flanking. When you put Grid and Nuketown side by side, they're actually really similar, but obviously Nuketown was the more popular of the two. Grid is a great map. It was one of my favorites in the original Black Ops, even if it didn't get the appreciation it deserved. At number 24 today, Showdown from COD 4. This is one of the best maps from COD 4. It had an arena design, it put players in a rectangular area with the objectives in the middle, which forced tons of engagements and creative flanks. Now, there's a few annoying camping spots, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It had flaws, but I still think Showdown is one of the best maps in the game. At number 23 today, Skid Row from Modern Warfare 2. Hot take, okay? Here's the thing. I love the map, but I've seen a lot of people in the community that don't like it. I don't get it. It did have the annoying hallway on the second floor where people went to die, but was it the annoying hallway on the ground floor where people would spam noob tubes, or maybe it was the staircase of death? I don't know. There was annoying things with it, but if you embraced it, this was a fun map. It was a lot better than people give it credit for, and I know I'm probably going to get some flack on that one. At number 22, Express from Black Ops 2. Really cool idea for a map, and I think it worked out. Very long map, a lot of verticality, and every once in a while that annoying train would pop up and ruin your day if you weren't playing with your sound on. It was a fan favorite. I think it added some extra life to Black Ops Cold War once it was added as well. At number 21, Genesis from IW. By far the most popular map in Infinite Warfare. It was essentially a remake of Dome from Modern Warfare 3, and as you'd expect, it played well. Small, fast-paced, great for high-kill matches. It was probably the main map that people remember from this game, and as much as people hated IW, well, Genesis still supplied you with that old-school COD game flow, and it should be commended for that. That's why it almost made it in the top 20. And now we have the top 20 best maps in COD history. Courtyard from World at War. I bring this map up quite a bit because I think it was underrated, and I think it took a lot more thought than people realized. Do you stay on the low ground? Do you run around up top where you're more visible but no cover? And you always have to be on the move because there's no cover above you, so a well-placed grenade could drop you at any moment. Courtyard was great. I'm shocked more people don't talk about it today. It was remade as Dig in Black Ops 2, which I thought was phenomenal, but that's not enough. Bring back Courtyard in COD 2021. At number 19, Resistance from Modern Warfare 3. Now, a lot of people view this one as one of the best maps from MW3. I'm with it. It was pretty big, but it had some interesting layout that would push people into the choke points, pretty reliable, and it kept the action up. Plus, there was some awesome showdowns that happened in the alleyways and along that giant staircase. And then, there was always that one D-bag camping the center building with Assassin Pro, because why not, right? At number 18, Afghan from Modern Warfare 2. How many times did you go for that cross-map throwing knife or noob tube or snipe on this map? Because I did it a few times. I mean, I did. It was one of the main maps from Modern Warfare 2 that people remember. I don't even know where to start with it. Let me show I talk about the cave, the bunker, the cliffside, the mattress, little pathway, outskirts, side door to the cave, weird field outside the bunkers, down plane in the middle of the map. Come on. Such an iconic map in the COD community. I have nothing but good things to say about it. I don't think it's quite top 10, but now we're at the point in the video where everything's a legacy map, and ranking these was hard. Going forward, everyone is going to have their own idea of which map was the best. That's what makes these videos so fun. At number 17 today, Jungle from Black Ops 1. It is one of the few large COD maps that I think the community all agrees was good. Now, usually the big COD maps are the ones the community likes to forget about, but Jungle, it was a fan favorite. The layout, the vibes, the secret spots. You could take control of the entire map single-handedly on the cliff, and who could forget putting your claymore up on the one rock, the cliff, and just picking people off from 200 yards. I did it. I did. At number 16, Hard Hat from Modern Warfare 3. Now, the Modern Warfare remake of the map was butchered, but the original MW3 map is excellent. Medium-sized map, lots of mid-range engagements, but a bunch of close-range choke points as well. You zipped around the construction site trying to pick people off as you ran through the concrete tubes, and you took cover on the half-constructed walls. I love the map. If the spawns were a little better in the 2019 remake, it would have been just as good. Spawns can make or break a map. It's true. At number 15, Slums from Black Ops 2. On one hand, Slums was one of the most unbalanced domination maps in COD history. On the other hand, it played great in every other single game mode. The fact B-Flag was such a nightmare to take, it gave Slums its charm, and in every other game mode it was fantastic. The center of the map was this giant fight pit, and everywhere else was basically just a flanking route to get to said fight pit. People loved it. I did too. I voted it every time. At number 14, Shipment from COD 4. Perhaps the most love it or hate it map in COD history. The original version of Shipment, wow, fast-paced, hectic. You didn't have super fast reflexes and a good aim, you were going to get annihilated. That being said, a lot of people adored the map for being such a change of pace from other first-person shooters at the time. And even to this day, not many other FPS games have a map like Shipment. It's pure chaotic fun, and I think it's a fair spot. It's a piece of COD history. At number 13 today, Scrapyard for Modern Warfare 2 has to be one of the best maps Infinity Ward has ever made. Everybody has their memories here. You rush the sides, noob tube across the map, sneak around inside the planes with your suppressed UMP-45. Scrapyard was fantastic as a map. Maybe a hot take to put it this high, but honestly, I think it deserves it. It was excellent. It's one of the best in COD history, and I remember playing paintball on the real-life Scrapyard in the very first COD XP for Modern Warfare 3. At number 12, Hijack from Black Ops 2. One of the most, if not the most popular map in Black Ops 2. It was frantic voyage out on the high seas, and also it was just a crazy 3-lane map that people adored. The lanes were tight, but there was still enough variation to keep you interested. When you went below deck, you had a great flanking route to the other side, assuming somebody wasn't already waiting down there for you. I think this is some of Treyarch's best map work. At number 11, Vacant in COD 4. One of the best close-range maps in COD history. It's a maze to people who just started playing COD, but once you learn the layout, it's easily one of the best maps Infinity Ward has ever designed. Flanking routes, intense fights. I mean, the objective play, a layout that would keep you on your toes? Absolutely. And my friends, we made it. The 10 best maps, launch maps that is, in COD history out of 176 maps. At number 10 today, Standoff from Black Ops 2. It's how you do a sniping map, right? The center lane was Sniper Alley. Rest of the map was basically a bunch of people trying to sneak around, take control of the center lane from the enemy, plus the showdowns that happened here between people who knew how to use a sniper rifle. Woo! I love Standoff. There's a reason why people rejoiced when it was added to Black Ops Cold War, and I specifically love watching Team Caliber play this. I think it was Capture the Flag on this, and Hardpoint. They were all great. At number 9, Dome from Modern Warfare 3. One of my favorite small maps in COD history. It was extremely fast-paced, but still enough that it wasn't pure chaos. Plus, no pun intended, it was a go-to spot for salty 1v1s and headshots. Only troll videos from Minnesota Burns back in the day, if you remember who that is. I have a lot of memories on Dome, and I bet you do too. At number 8, how much hate am I going to get for this? Nuketown from Black Ops 1. Now, I think it's interesting how much the community's attitude towards Nuketown has changed. When Black Ops 1 dropped, opinions were positive. Then over the years, people got more tired of it. I don't blame you. But when you get down to it, it's an excellent map. It's well-designed. It's well-balanced. It's exciting. And while a lot of people hate the chaos, no pun intended again, a lot of people loved it. I think Nuketown, if it wasn't so spammed, attitudes would be more positive. And for its insane legacy in the world of FPS games, here it is at number 8. At number 7, Rust from Modern Warfare 2. 1v1 me on Rust. One of the most iconic maps in FPS history. It was the go-to place for high kill games and the settling of online beef. Today, just about everybody has memories on Rust in one way or another. Compared to other small COD maps, I think Rust had better flow and a tad more versatility. Now, I know a good amount of people hate how chaotic it can be, but a good chunk of the community loves it, and the iconic factor, you put it in there, come on. At number 6, High Rise from Modern Warfare 2. I mean, the most recognizable map in COD history, one of them, maybe under Nuketown. Medium-sized map, lots of verticality, lots of sightlines. The map was all about controlling your spawns, making sure you weren't out in the open. Plus, there were so many secret spots on the side of the map and above. It was cool. It was rewarding if you could get up there one piece with attack insert, and who could forget all the iconic clips that were hit on High Rise. At number 5 today, Crash from COD 4. Yep, almost perfect example of an old-school COD map design. 3 lanes, lots of routes, you can go. Verticality wasn't that hard to counter. You could counter somebody on the low ground, power positions, but ultimately map control was done well. If you rotated and got out of the ground level areas, you were good. I think it's a God tier map, and while the remakes haven't done it justice, this one is solid. At number 4 today, Summit from Black Ops 1. One of the best maps in the original Black Ops, and perhaps the best snow map in COD history. Medium-sized map, but the action was all close quarters, super fast-paced. It's one of those maps that it's gotten spammed at us like crazy over the years, so I understand why people are tired of it. But when you talk about the design, fantastic. At number 3, Raid from Black Ops 2. Now, if you ask me, this is the best map in Black Ops 2, and I know a lot of you agree with me. Raid was a medium-sized map, lots of close-range engagements, very fast game flow. I'd even go as far to say it's one of the best Treyarch maps ever created. It was hard not to have fun no matter what your playstyle was, and that's part of what made Black Ops 2 so great. At number 2, Terminal from Modern Warfare 2. Almost as good as it gets. Almost perfect. Close range, mid-range, long-range, stealthy, aggressive, high ground, low ground. It didn't matter. It had something for every style. It was a fan favorite in Modern Warfare 2, came back in Modern Warfare 3, came back in Infinite Warfare, and it's going to come back in future games. In my opinion, it could have been number 1. But at number 1 today, we counted down from 176. Firing range in Black Ops 1. I think this is one of the best FPS maps of all time. Now, I know some of you gotten burned out on it, but come on. Small, fast-paced, but still big enough to get your bearings together. Tons of verticality, tons of power positions. Firing range really had something for everybody in a COD map and then more. I agree, it's been spammed a little too much in recent years, but if we're going back to Black Ops 1, here it is. I hope you guys agreed. If you don't, let me know what you didn't agree with. Thank you for sticking with me for this. Let me know what you want to see ranked next, and I'll see you soon.
Don't try this yourself. It's extremely dangerous.